It's about time we talk about culture and Islam. Two things that exist that both contradict, clash, and also complement each other. And I think it's something very important, especially coming from a revert perspective, because before you revert to Islam, the environment you live in shapes you. Now, I lived most of my life in the UK. I was born in the UK. I lived a few years in Peru, and then I went back to the UK. And culture changes around the world to the point where every city has its own culture, to the point where differences in wealth will have different cultures. And this is something that is within each individual person. Now, the difficulty with Islam is humans have sort of correlated cultures to Islam. There's no such thing as Islamic culture, really. It's either the culture from Pakistan, it's either the culture from Bangladesh, or Arab culture, or Indonesian culture. Now, I look extremely skinny. I'm not actually skinny. I've been going to the gym. Onwards. The issue with culture is that there are things that go directly against Islam. And I'll try and find some examples of this as the video goes on. But in today's video, I want to talk to you about how it's super important to preserve your culture when you convert to Islam. Let's go back to my Shahada day. I took my Shahada alone in my bedroom, but about a month and a half later, I went to the mosque and got it done officially in the mosque. And when I took my Shahada, and I made it more public, I started getting gifts from people. And the gifts were things like thobes, the little head thing that you can put on, and so on. And that, I think there's so much beauty in that. Like, the fact that people want to gift you stuff and you're basically a stranger to them is something beautiful. I'd go to a restaurant and they'd gift me food just because they found out that I'm a revert. And there's beauty in that, a lot of beauty. But then there's also the excitement of reverting or converting to Islam that sort of gets muddled up with culture. And you start to wear your thobe more. Whenever you go to the mosque, you wear your thobe. You put on this head thing, you dress differently, you start to behave differently. And you don't notice it, but what is actually happening is you're sort of, in a sense, losing who you are yourself. And I went through this, and pretty much every single convert to Islam who I've spoken to has gone through the exact same thing. They feel like they have an identity crisis because they look back and they're like, I'm not the person who I was. I'm not who I used to be, and I've changed so much in such a quick time that you kind of just, not panic, but you kind of just lose yourself and you start to think like, what am I doing? And this can clash with Islam. Instead of thinking I've lost my culture and I've lost who I was, you start to think Islam has taken away who I was. Now, here's the important thing. Distinguish between culture and Islam. There's nothing wrong with a thobe, but a thobe isn't inherently Islamic. There's nothing Islamic about a thobe. The only correlation there is, and it's a really minor correlation, is that the Prophet ﷺ, 1400 years ago or so, would wear thobes, which is just the dress wear from around the time. It's nothing to do with Islam. It's nothing like he said, this is a Muslim clothing. You can identify Muslims because they wear this. There are Christians in the Arab nations that wear thobes. There are even Jews that wear thobes. I live in Saudi Arabia right now, and you'll never guess what. The other day, I met a Saudi Arabian citizen, an older man around 50, 60. If you're watching this, forgive me for calling you old, but you are. Who was an atheist, a complete atheist, and he was wearing a thobe. So what I'm trying to say, how do I couple this up nicely? I think I'm doing a good job so far, so correct me in the comments if not. What I'm trying to say is, who you are is part of your life. The way you act, the way to the point of the way you go to the bathroom, the way you greet people. I'm British, and living in Saudi Arabia, having lived in Dubai, having traveled the world and lived in Peru, I know that British culture, part of British culture, is being insanely polite wherever I go. At least part of Cambridge culture, which is where I'm from in the UK. insanely polite. You'd say sorry even if they are in the wrong. You'd apologise to them, but just because it's built on politeness. That is my culture, and I love it. And some people, and the way I dress, like right now, if you look, I'm in Western clothes. This is my culture. This is how I dress. So then the main point is you have your culture, and the issue is you start to wear thobes, you start to do this, you start to act in a different way. You grow your beard out, which is part of Islam, and we'll cover this in a minute. But you feel like you've lost who you are. And then you correlate that to Islam, when in reality it's just other Muslims from Islamic cultures sort of just introducing different cultures to you. And the first thing is that there's nothing wrong with other cultures, as long as it's not haram or goes against Islam. There's nothing wrong with a thobe. There's nothing wrong with a headpiece. There's nothing wrong with kabsa, which is like, I believe it's lamb on rice, which is a type of Arab food. There's nothing wrong with that. Where the problem arises is when you feel like you've lost your culture, and you miss your culture, and you miss who you were as a person, and you correlate that with Islam, and you think, I'm going to leave Islam to rediscover my culture. Now, this is a big problem in Islam because most Muslims are from a different culture to most reverts or converts. Most converts are from Britain or America or Europe or non-Islamic areas, and most Muslims obviously are going to be from Islamic countries. And the issue is they meet someone and they're like, here's a gift, and it's a cultural gift, and then you correlate that with Islam. There's nothing Islamic about a thobe. There's nothing Islamic about a little, well, there are some correlations there, but inherently there's nothing important when it comes to Islam with those things. A great example is, there's a hadith that, or there's like a sunnah, which is wearing a little, covering your head with something when you pray. I can wear this hat and it counts as a sunnah. This is me doing my cultural thing, which isn't really a British cultural thing, but it's more of a Western cultural thing, American thing, especially because it says LA on it. But me wearing a hat that isn't an Islamic culture, or like from an Islamic country culture, this still counts. This is still sunnah, wearing a normal baseball cap, because it goes, the sunnah is covering your head with something. It doesn't say you have to cover it with a kufi, which is a specific type of hat from Islamic regions. So, the important thing, first of all, two messages. One for new Muslims who are entering Islam, or if you're going through an identity crisis, which I might title this video, I don't know. When people say, learn to distinguish culture from Islam, I think this is the most important thing to understand. Thobes, things from Islamic countries, a lot of the time are not Islam. So when you learn to distinguish that, you can wear a thobe, there's nothing wrong with that. But I, for example, would rather wear a three-piece suit on a Friday when I go to pray in the mosque. The headgear that you have to wear, there's nothing wrong with that. But I would just rather wear this because it's me and I'm comfortable with it. And this is what I'd recommend to you. Do the same. Do what you are comfortable with. Be unapologetically yourself. There's these cool guys called Chris and Ben from the UK who are always seen wearing three-piece suits and talking in a very strong British accent. But they're Muslims, and they're openly Muslims, and they talk about it, and they live an Islamic life. But they also live within that sort of British culture, which is beautiful. And I think that's an example I think we all should take. Now, a message to the people who aren't Muslim, who have, let's say, a convert friend or a revert friend, whatever you want to call it. How do you talk to them? Now you're probably going to be scared and you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't give them a thobe. I can't talk to them in a different way because they're going to associate that with Islam and feel like they're losing their religion and they're losing themselves and they're going to leave the religion. What do I do? Okay. The good thing is that you're aware of the problem now. You know what the problem is. The important thing is, I think, first of all, think of gifts as more, try and focus on Islamic gifts, things that have an Islamic meaning behind them. For example, a Quran or a book that relates, I'm pointing at my books right now, that relates to Islam. There's a really good one called Healthy Muslim Marriage or The 99 Names of Allah. There's some really good books you can gift them that are not cultural, they're just Islamic. A thobe is a cultural gift, so that's sort of a distinguishing thing you want to make. I'm going to gift this person something that is Islamic and about Islam, not about culture. The second thing I'd recommend is, if you do want to gift them something to do with culture, make them fairly aware that it's just a cultural thing. So for example, I have this, which is a Yemeni headpiece. I gifted this to my friend from Italy, a guy called Lorenzo, who you might know from YouTube. I gifted a similar one to him when he came to Saudi Arabia. But I never mentioned to him that this is not an Islamic thing. And he loved it, he loved the gift. But to be honest, I should probably call him up and tell him, FYI, this is just a cultural thing from the Middle East. It's nothing to do with Islam. And it does make you feel like a sheikh, so fair enough. But yeah, if I was to gift him anything cultural going forwards, see, even I've made the mistake. I'd make sure he's aware that it is just a cultural gift, and it's just a random gift that I thought he would like. It's nothing to do specifically with Islam. Now, if you're going through this identity crisis, what I'd recommend is, there's nothing wrong. I'm holding this notebook because I like it. Nothing to do with this video. There's nothing wrong with being yourself. There's nothing wrong with your current culture. Obviously, you have to kind of fit it into the Islamic halal, haram categories and make sure you're focusing on the halal. For example, British culture is probably a veggie breakfast where you'd have sausages and bacon within the rest of the meal. That's just part of the culture. Obviously, bacon and sausages are haram. So I would have a English breakfast or just a veggie breakfast which fits into halal. And I'm still embracing my British culture. I'm having an amazing meal that is British, which if you haven't tried, you should try. But at the same time, I am halal. Same with alcohol, and like, you just know it's haram, but that doesn't mean like, how do I word this? Because this is a sketchy one. Family celebrations, you can feel excluded from family celebrations because alcohol is involved. And yes, you should avoid alcohol at all costs because it's directly haram. It's mentioned quite clearly that it's haram, and you have to be careful with that. But then there's the idea of suddenly you've left your family, your whole family celebrating Christmas, and you're just in your room, just disappeared, just hiding away because of that. I think the truth behind it is, this is my truth, this is not an Islamic teaching, and please correct me in the comments, but I think this is how I would do it. There's no harm in going and spending time with your family. If your family is all getting together because of Christmas, you can be around the table. As long as you... There's two sides to this. If your family are openly know that you're Muslim, then you can be comfortable with telling them, I'm not going to drink alcohol, while still having a good time with them. Now, if your family don't know you're Muslim, then you have to take a few... I've been through this, by the way. You have to take a few precautions, because you don't want to reveal that you're Muslim yet, you're not comfortable with it. But also, there's pork being handed around or alcohol being handed around. In this case, quite often, there's a lot of scientific studies around pork, there's a lot of scientific studies around alcohol. You can simply say you're living a more healthy life. And if it's quite bad, just plan something around it so that you can avoid that thing and not have to deal with having to eat pork. And then, the next step, you have to remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most forgiving. He will forgive you. Obviously, I really find it tough trying to say this stuff because I'm not 100% sure if it's true. But He is the most forgiving. It's one of His names, the 99 names of Allah. And if you are in a place of burden where it's really difficult for you to keep this halal lifestyle, there's forgiveness in that, where humans will sin, and you are put in a position where you are pushed to your limit when it comes to this stuff. Don't feel like you are going straight to hell if you are pushed to your limits Islamically. For example, a great example of this is, someone asked me recently, I want to pray, but my family doesn't know I'm Muslim and I'm really scared to pray, and they're Polish family, which Poland is quite anti-Islam at the moment. And he said, what do I do? he or she, I don't know, is an anonymous person on Instagram. And I said, look, when you're pushed to this sort of extent where your ways out are kind of stuck, there's a great quick analogy. If you're on an island and there's nothing to eat and you suddenly see a pig run across you and you know you can catch the pig and eat the pig and it will keep you alive, that is not haram. If it's in a really difficult situation where there's no real way out, because of the forgiveness of Allah, pork itself becomes something that isn't haram. It's one of the few cases where pork isn't haram. When you need it to survive, it's like the last thing. There's nothing else you can do. Pork in that moment becomes a source of abundance and food that you can rely on without it being a haram act. Similar in this situation, if your whole family doesn't know you're Muslim and you know that you revealing you're Muslim can get you in real trouble, there is forgiveness there. For example, I told him, do the best you possibly can, and the best you possibly can is, what if they walk in on you whilst you're with your head down praying to God? First step, make dua, ask for help from God to make it easy for you. Second step, if it's that difficult and you're that scared, you can pray sitting down, and that way when they do walk in, they won't know you're praying, and you can just stop your prayer, diffuse the situation and then go back to your prayer afterwards. The idea is to do the best you can, and obviously as a convert you'll be in these situations where you sort of are pushed to where you don't really have an option, or you don't have many options left, and in these situations you just do the best you can, and that is inshallah accepted. Now what I'd love to ask is for anyone who has knowledge, if you don't have knowledge on this, please don't comment on these topics, but if you do, please put a paragraph or something down below helping any converts with the actual Islamic rulings on this. I'm going to stop the video there because I've been rambling too long, but I hope you understand what I've been trying to say, and I hope it helps one or two of you. Anyways, I'm going to drink 3 litres of milk. I'll speak to you later. Goodbye.